All right, good evening, everyone. It is Monday, August 8th, 2022, 6 o'clock. Call the regular City Prescott Council meeting to order. Tom?
Here.
Pat?
Here.
Maureen?
Here.
Bailey?
Here.
Dar and John are excused. Please stand and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is public comments. City will now receive public comments on issues related to the agenda. Limited discussion by the council may take place. Anybody on the council have anything? All right, let's move to the consent agenda. Library Board of Trustees meeting minutes, June 16th. Regular City Council meeting minutes, July 25th. Planning Commission meeting minutes, August 1st. TID Joint Board Review, August 3rd. Cash balances, budget year-to-date. General Fund budget comparison. Accounts payable. Freedom Park Sunset Soiree, October 1st, 4 to 8. A temporary Class B liquor license request and an amplifier request.
Motion to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Anybody have any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next item on the agenda, nothing for finance. Public Works, next meeting Monday, August 29th at 5 o'clock. Planning Commission, okay, at Planning Commission, we talked about the most edition. We talked about the maybe looking at an alternative other than going through the most edition. Dave Hovel brought up that we could go a half a mile east on Hollister and go through just to the east of the Vandenberg Acres and come out just east of the gravel pit. And there wouldn't be any need for a bridge or anything like that. So they talked about Cedar Corps looking into that. So when we bring that back to the council, need to remember if we choose to do that and not plat it through where it currently is, then we can't go back on it once we approve the most next phase. So just keep that in mind. We are going to explore that, but once again, you're going to run into landowner. And another thing, it's totally within Oak Grove Township.
I would encourage everybody to go back and watch that meeting because it was a pretty robust conversation. And which I wanted to congratulate you guys on. You did a good job at that meeting.
Thank you.
Everybody did. And it was very informative, and it's a big decision that's looming in front of us.
It is. And can that happen? You know, if it happens in 15 or 20 years, that $10 million is going to be inflated by double, triple, who knows? But it's just something to think about in the back of your mind on what's currently coming. And we did have folks from Oak Grove Township showed up, and I know they don't want 1200th Street as an alternative. And if you've never gone south on 12, or I guess it'd be west on 1200th Street all the way to 35, that's not a good alternative. That hill that goes down and goes around like that is not a good alternative. So just something to keep in mind. So that's what we did at Planning Commission. Any comments or anything on that?
If I understand this, it comes down one, coming over to 570th, is that, I was looking, trying to figure that out. Is that correct as far as anybody knows?
570th, isn't that Hollister?
Yes.
Hollister, it is.
Okay.
Yep, so that is,
It will adjoin Hollister. Currently, it's platted through the most addition. Mayor Dave Hovel said that if you moved it a half a mile east on Hollister, just to the east of the Vandenberg property, and then it would come out just east of the gravel pit. However, it's at the bottom of the hill. It's at the bottom of Highway 10, right? Going up this way, going that way. And then again, is the state gonna give you a cut? Are they gonna let you actually come out there? So there's a lot of things to explore.
sure.
I thought that decision had been made previously, or was that just a preliminary? I remember discussing this a couple of years ago.
We have, and it
Okay.
is, I'll use the term ghost platted right
Yeah.
now to go through the most
Yeah,
property. So the most, phase 3 is in, help me out, Matt, it's in the preliminary,
yeah.
So it's in the third edition. The reason this came about again is the third edition is come forth for consideration, and currently within our comprehensive plan, we do have the alignment going through the most property and connecting directly north onto Highway 10. The issue that we've run into and that we've considered is due to the bridge that would have to be constructed, and that would be at the city's expense. We could look for grants, although there's not a ton of them out there for bridges. The proposal that, and it's just an estimate right now, because we didn't put a whole bunch of funds into wanting our engineers, Cedar Corporation, to put together a really robust, in-depth proposal, but it would come in at about $11 million, so.
Yeah, I read the minutes, but I just wondered, I didn't remember there being a bridge in the final or in the ghost plat.
I did a terrain map. so you
Oh,
can
that's
see.
where it is, huh?
So basically,
And
here's McGee, most 10.
ballpark that they're looking
So we
for,
would have to get over all
I
of
guess,
this.
Yeah.
a drop dead date on
So
yay or
now they're
nay
talking about up here?
for his phase 3?
Huh.
I think right now they're not so much looking for a drop dead date, as they're just looking, we're trying to make sure we get the proper guidance for planning commission moving forward, that we're doing
Oh,
what
here's
we want to,
Prescott's down.
or not what we want to, but
That's
doing
the
what we
quarry.
need to properly plan for the future of the community. Just the overall cost of the bridge, I think overall the city has always had
Keep
if
pushing
you look at a lot of our
this.
right-of-ways and where they end, there's always been, at least it looks like if you look at the plats and where land, isn't, and the right-of-ways of where they continue on, it seems like there's always been an idea, like eventually we're gonna cross this ravine at some point, whether it be Dexter, whether it be Walnut. Unfortunately, it just has never happened. I think a large part of this is because it's gonna require some very expensive civil work to make a bridge or do other type of things like that nature, so that's why it came up again.
And on top
Cedar
of that,
Quarry
we're-
looked all around,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be 1,000 feet, is what the span's gonna be.
Right,
I saw that,
And
yeah.
like, it's a rare thing
Yeah.
to
Well,
put in a bridge of that magnitude in a city.
and the thing that I kind of have with adding bridges is maintenance. And right now, one of the biggest infrastructure issues that we have throughout the United States is the maintenance of bridges. We do not maintain them well. It is not, that is well known. So that's where it's like, it'd be great to not add something like that that's going to have significant cost long-term for this community. That's just my opinion.
One of the concerns I have going forward is if we dither in this decision they're gonna come ahead with their further additions, one at a time, until we have a situation where all of these homes are being built and all this traffic is running through the existing ways into town. And it's gonna make everybody miserable. So we have to address this before we go any further with this development. That's my
I
opinion.
don't disagree. I just think we need to get maybe creative as to like shifting or what options, other than building a bridge that we have, like, does it have to be right there? You know, because building a bridge just, we already have bridges that need a lot of work.
Yeah. Okay. So, next meeting will be Tuesday, September 6th at 6 o'clock for Planning Commission. Parks and Public Property, next meeting Monday, August 15th at 5. Nothing for license. Ordinance, next meeting September 26th at 5. Nothing for health and safety. Personnel, committee report from the personnel meeting. Want to take that, Maureen?
Are you going to show us are we voting on not the school resource officer, but on the amendments to the,
So we'll, that employee survey we're gonna be conducting this month, and then
That's
once we
right.
have the results, we'll share that with council. Ideally, would probably be part of a workshop that we'll discuss later on.
okay,
And then once we have those results, we make the final amendments to the handbook, and then that would be brought
Okay.
before personnel.
yeah, we
committee.
had a preliminary look at the handbook and the changes, and pretty much there was agreement on most of the items that were being changed. And the person who reviewed the handbook and gave the recommendations was here. Pete? Was
Pete,
that-
yep, Pete Whitenick with JA Counter.
Yeah, and he gave a good explanation for some of the changes, and there was only one where we had,
Search and seize.
yeah, search and seizure issues that we had a conversation about. But otherwise, we'll get a report on that later. Everything else is here for voting today.
I don't see any minutes for that meeting.
The minutes are still being worked on. Unfortunately, I
Okay.
wasn't able to complete them in time for the packet.
Okay, school resource officer contract.
So before you tonight is an updated contract with the Prescott School District. One of the things that we have discussed in Personnel Committee is reviewing that contract, and in terms of bringing it more up to standards that result in more of an equal opportunity, or equal share, I should say, of the expenses that result in that school resource officer. So the two changes that are in the contract are the amount goes from $10,000 for the annual payment to $26,000. And then additionally, there is an overtime clause that has been added that basically states if the school resource officer is required by the school district for any means, whether it be last minute emergency or even if it's a couple days, that overtime will be split between the school district and the city of Prescott equally. Other than those two changes, other than the dates being updated, everything else remains the same as the previous contract in terms of the purpose and goals, term, and other items within, in terms of work days and things like that. So I'll turn it over to council for comments or questions.
The Personnel Committee did recommend to sign the contract. It's, the improvements I thought were what we requested. More money and more definition of responsibilities.
I would make the motion to approve the contract between the City of Prescott and the Prescott School Board.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the school resource officer contract. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Is this an annual contract? No. And I missed that.
The contract is for this year, however, it does have a clause that essentially the contract will continue until either party approaches the other party and lets them know that they would like to change it. I think just trying to figure out what, they have a certain amount of time that we each have to let each other know before.
Okay.
I apologize, I don't remember that offhand.
So there is no COLA clause built into the contract?
There is not a COLA clause built into the contract currently.
Excuse me, but what's a COLA clause?
Cost of living index.
Okay.
In the last round of inflation in the 70s and the 80s, it was very common to include them in most contracts.
Yeah, we might want to get back to doing that.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's just get rid of the inflation and we don't have to.
So the term will remain in effect from September 1st of 2022.
To May 30.
May 31st of
Yep, I see that now.
2023. And then the renewal for 1 year on July 30th, 2023, each consecutive year thereafter, and then exactly what Matt said.
How long have we been doing this? Just curious, it's been several years?
Yeah,
Okay.
3, 4.
Until last year, though, did the district pay anything towards the
Yeah.
office?
A
Oh, they
little
did.
bit, but it
Yeah.
wasn't,
The 10,000.
yeah.
Yeah, they were paying like $10,000.
10,000.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah. Okay. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
I
Opposed?
All right.
Thank you. Next meeting for personnel, Wednesday, November 2nd at 5 o'clock. Then move on to communications and new business. City will now receive public comments on any issue not related to the agenda. Limited discussion by city council may take place. However, no action will be taken place on any item. Anybody have anything?
Just a reminder, there's an election tomorrow. We'll be here from 7 a.m. till 8 p.m. So
Hey, everybody come out and vote.
vote.
I have one question regarding the committee summaries that we have to provide. So if we're not doing a resolution approval in our consent agenda, is that still required? So like, we're not trying to do like an approval of a resolution underneath consent agenda approval? Is it really required underneath the committee standings to provide an update? That's the only question I have for staff. We don't need an answer today, but that would be one thing I'm wondering. Because I do know that I asked, hey Matt, we were chatting about it, regarding if there's a resolution, that's why we have to do that. So I'd like to know if there is not a resolution, if we still have to provide summaries for that council meeting or not, just because we do have the minutes available.
I believe Jane sent you an email
I saw
on
it.
that.
Yeah.
Yep, I saw it. I'm still
It's in our
asking.
ordinance and,
Yep.
okay. So I'd say yes.
Yeah, it just gives everybody that isn't on the committee the chance to hear what happened in the committee. Because something may not go anywhere, but yet they may be out in the public and hear it. So it's just best, everybody kind of knows what's going on in all the committees.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Just, I did get the email.
yeah.
I forgot that we were supposed to do that. So I didn't take notes at the personnel meeting. So,
Oh, shame on you.
I know, shame on me.
Okay. Any other public comments? Okay, the next item is housing study consideration. Resolution 26-22 approving a proposal by WSB Engineering to conduct a senior and multifamily housing analysis at a cost of $6,000.
Motion to approve the study for Resolution 2622, a study by WSB Engineering to conduct a senior and multifamily housing analysis at the cost of $6,000.
I would like to understand if it's regarding like, it's the whole town. I saw that, but I'm like, I saw Tom's email and I do have similar questions as he has, I guess.
Sure. So just some background, this came up as a result of, I'm not expecting to remember, but during my 6-month evaluation, you asked me to come up with a set of goals, and I think there was 8 to 10. One of them was coming up at least proposals to do this study. So Carter Hayes, who is our city planner, reached out and to a number of different organizations. The two that have responded to him were Maxfield Research and WSB. The idea behind this was we set aside a chunk of money from TID 3 when it closed for affordable housing, with 75% of that needing to go to affordable housing, and then the 25% remaining would go to just improving the housing stock and index overall within the city. Moving forward, putting together those proposals, one of the things that was discussed in talking with the Prescott Housing Authority was where are the opportunities to put these, and one of the things that they have discussed is they have, if you look out here on, what's the road here, sorry?
Pine Street, right?
Pine Street.
Yeah.
They own a portion of their land directly next to their second building that is vacant that could be used to develop potentially an additional building for either senior housing or market rate, or not market rate, but affordable housing and a multifamily housing, I should say. So one of the things that they approached us and we looked at the opportunity to utilize that money was, could we do a market study that actually would be used by either the Prescott Housing Authority or ourselves to market some of these parcels that maybe are identified. So what this housing study does is first it looks at, based on our demographics of where we're at and what we have currently within the city, is there even a need for this type of housing within the community? So that's the type of, in terms of both of these organizations, they do this work quite a bit. So they would look at that first. So once they come up with that, then they would say, well, what are they, based on our zoning, what are some opportunities in terms of where they could put it? And then the idea would be, once this study is complete and we have that information, if they are stating there is a need for it, we would take that information and either work with WSB. They perform, what's being recommended is the WSB because it is the cheaper proposal. They have an option where they would actually go out and potentially market these lands, this area of land that they identified to potential developers, or we could use it internally to approach developers and state, here's the reasoning for, the demographics, the reasoning for why we need it, and here's the areas of development we think would be developable, and see if there's any interest in them coming forward. So that is the reasoning for why it is brought before you and how it came to be. And just to give us some areas of what they're looking at in terms of criteria, they're looking at transportation infrastructure, emergency vehicle access, adjacent land usage, proximity to public recreation sites, and then public transit data in terms of if there's availability for ride-sharing applications, for more of the senior housing aspect of getting people back and forth. So with that, I guess I'll turn it over to your questions in terms of what.
So there is a plan to basically, my big thing is like, okay, so we're gonna get it and we're gonna take action on it. So we'll do something with it. Either we have something relative right now that it relates to. So it's not something we're gonna do a study and then like 6 years later, we're like, well, that study's out of date, so we need to redo it again.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest thing, is that if we have something that this is actually, we have something going on right now where it's like, yep, now's the time we gotta do it. That's the only question I have.
Well, part of the reason it was more of a forefront in my mind when we talked about it too was more so the old hospital site, which ideally, I know they've proposed that those would be townhomes or duplex townhome units. That's still an option, and that was what the concept plan that we approved. However, I think we have worked with that property owner enough to know that there's no for sure's there, so there's still an opportunity, even though it's going to be torn down. Ideally starting August 15th, that there's still an opportunity that if that site doesn't move forward, this study would be something we could use to potentially attract somebody else to that site to hopefully buy it from that owner and develop it in the future. To your point though, there's no guarantee that any developer would actually say, I'm going to come develop, so there's still that opportunity in 5 years that nobody develops and they come back to us and say it's out of sight, that maybe we would have to look at it again in terms of updating it.
But WSB do like marketing of properties that we might identify might be an opportune place for it. And that's part of their bid.
So they would look at properties, but they would also look at areas of the cities that may be in the city or adjacent to it that are
Got it. Yeah.
undeveloped.
I thought they said they do that, but that's a separate
Yeah.
contract.
Separate fee, I would assume it would
Yeah.
be.
And worst case scenario, highly unlikely, but worst case scenario, they come back and say, sorry, you don't have anything that we consider valuable or worthy of going the next step, and at this time, that's kind of worst case scenario, is that correct?
Yeah, worst case scenario, they'd come back and say, yeah, there's just no interest there, we're not, there's just no interest in terms of units, the demographics show that you don't have, the population that would utilize this type of housing, and that, your city, I would be hard pressed to believe that's the case, since we have an aging population, everybody else, and Prescott has been growing. Those are generally the two, like, just looking from a bird's eye view, what you're looking at to see
Yeah.
what type of housing, but
I mean, we put the money aside, that's quite a bit of money to put in an affordable housing
Yeah.
account, so I would go ahead and second resolution 26-22.
Yeah, I just want to say, it is the most frequently raised question that I get, is when are we going to have senior housing? So, maybe it's my age demographic, but it's what they
I'm not
ask
getting
me.
asked that question at the park with the little kids, but I know we go at a different time.
Okay, so you second the motion?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion, a second. Any other discussion on the motion?
I just wanted to bring up the fact that sometimes some of these studies just turn into situations where the company offers it to you, and then they basically glean information, public information from the internet, and hand you back the study. And that's just one of my concerns. I agree that we need senior housing in Prescott, and I'm just wondering if this is more or less a roundabout way of saying yes to the housing authority, that the lot they have up there should get developed, and we're behind that, because I am.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my only concern for making the points I made,
Mhm.
is that sometimes I believe that it's very easy to get confused that we're a city with a population of 4,500, and we sometimes, I mistake that I think we're a population that's much higher than that warrants all of these various studies and so on and so forth, when the obvious answer is sitting right in front of us. That's all. I support the idea.
Okay, thanks. Any other discussion?
one item, Mayor, just for a clarification. Jane and I have discussed, and any time that we're appropriating money that is unbudgeted of any amounts, we do require a roll call vote of all members.
Okay. So I have a motion, a second. All in favor of approving Resolution 26-22, say aye.
Aye.
Gotta do a roll call.
We need
I'm sorry. Bailey?
Aye.
Maureen?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Tom?
No.
Motion carried. So the next item is Resolution 2722, resolution requesting application for exemption from the county library tax.
Don't we do this every year?
We do.
Motion
So
to-
what happens is that when the county goes to allocate money from the townships and that to run the libraries, any community that has a library gets an exemption if we complete this resolution. So we don't have to pay, our taxpayers don't pay because you already fund the library.
Motion to approve resolution 2722.
Second?
A motion and a second to approve Resolution 2722. Are there any discussion on the motion? Not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is for your consideration to the Planning Commission, Kate Otto. She actually reached out to me and she had talked to John Peterson, so we're gonna recommend her for planning commission. So next meeting be up for approval. Now we have closed session. Deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, public funds, or conducting any other specified public business, whatever competitive bargaining reasons require a closed session.
Motion to go into closed session?
Second?
Tom?
Aye.
John?
Pat?
Maureen?
Aye.
Haley?
Aye.
We're in closed session. I just did a roll call just to keep you on your toes. Okay. So-
Can I ask a quick